Gurudev, Michael.
Hi, so nice to be here.
So we have Michael Fischman with us, and his book Stumbling into Infinity is a very special book for me. I have even a sticker of Gurudev, so this I can. And I have many books. Like in the last part, I showed you, right, in different languages. I have his books. Uh, so Michael, this is second part of our Guru stories, and there are so many stories we heard about you from John Osborne's interviews also, like how you used to have that. Uh, some iron coil and you used to use that for heating water in the ashram, and how you used to imitate Gurudev in every course. You also told that in the last part, but and you worked on many projects also. You worked very hard. I should say, after interviewing you, John, and some other senior teachers, the ways you have actually established art of living with the blessings of Gurudev in US and other parts of the world, different countries, is something really inspiring.
Yeah, it was a very special time back then, but it's also a very special time right now.
Very true.
You know, we just had Guru Purnima, and it was really something that was historical. The fact that we had 40,000 people around the world on this silence course, and Gurudev was there. And
Yes.
usually Guru Purnima happens in the West, either in the United States or in Canada. And the very first Guru Purnima that we had in India was back in 1991, because Gurudev spent the entire year building the ashram. And in those days, we couldn't have a Zoom call to speak with the devotees back in the United States, but there was a new technology. Can believe this, in 1991, doing a conference call was a new technology. So somebody had an idea in the United States: let's do a conference call with Gurudev on Guru Purnima so that we could connect with him. So we organized this call, and we were in Jainagar, in Gyan Mandir, in the house where Gurudev lived before he moved over to the ashram. And one by one, different cities got on the conference call, and it was Rashri Patel and myself. We were in Gyan Mandir with Gurudev. And one city after another city would get on, and there were probably 20 people, 30 people, 50 people in a room on one conference call with Gurudev. And they would say, "Jai Gurudev, New York City, here, wishing you a happy Guru Purnima." And then New Jersey, we're here, wishing you a happy Guru Purnima. And Gurudev would say, "Jai Gurudev, happy Guru Purnima." And then somebody would call from Connecticut, and he would put his hand over the receiver and look at Rashri and I and go, "Who do we have in Connecticut? Who's there?" And but what was amazing for me to watch was that you could sense that every city that was connecting with Gurudev was being so filled with his grace and just so excited to be talking to him. But it's this something that nobody could see what was happening on the other side, that each city that would connect with him and everybody who said hello to him, he was getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the grace was flowing more and more, and the brightness and the smile and the love. And usually we're really focused on what we're receiving from Gurudev, all the love and the blessings we're receiving from him. But I don't think we're aware of how reciprocal it is, that the love and then the connection that we have with him, how that fills him up, and that makes him stronger and stronger and more fulfilled, if Gurudev could be more fulfilled. So that was a very exciting Guru Purnima to be there with him. Since I'm talking about Guru Purnima, the very first course that I took was on Guru Purnima. So my course was 1988. And it was Guru Purnima. Not the very first day, but the second day was Guru Purnima. And it's so funny that on my course, there were only 11 people who attended, and probably 8 of them were repeaters. So 3 of us were new, and here we were, and we're going through a course with him. And during the course, he didn't talk much about Guru Purnima, but he did a chant. It wasn't Guru Puja, but it was something else that I hadn't heard before. And then he sat very silently for a while, and he spoke to all of us. And this was the first experience I had that really mesmerized me, because as he was talking to us, he was changing in front of me. And I wasn't so familiar with Hindu mythology, but there he was turning into all the different deities. He became Hanuman, and he became Lakshmi, and he became Krishna. I mean, it was like I had to rub my eyes to see if it was an illusion or if it was real or what was happening. But like he would come back and he would be himself. He would look just like himself. And then he would just like fade out and he would be one of the other gods. And it was like, who is this man? So yeah, very, very, very special.
So, like, you used to see him changing his form with your eyes open, or you used to feel that?
No, it was with my
Or in
eyes
the bhav?
open. I thought I was like having hallucinations, but and I would sit there and I rub my eyes and I would just look again, and his complete form would change in front of me. I don't know if anybody else could see it. I didn't ask anybody else, but yeah, that was the first mystical experience I had with him.
And then I'm sure there are so many more mystical experiences to come. So, talking about this Guru Purnima and being in ashram, so you stayed in ashram for quite a long time?
I stayed in the ashram for 2 years.
2 years. During the 90s, beginning of the 90s.
Yeah, 1991 till about 1993. And it was really a very special time. And, it was the old campus that was built. There was no new campus at all. And we all stayed in Vasishta. I don't know who stays there now. Maybe Vinod Menon still lives there, but that's where we stayed. And we would, there was just a few of us who would be there, maybe 10 rooms were taken. And we would look out from the veranda. And now if you would look out towards it, you would see the meditation hall and the whole new campus. But in those days, there was nothing there, and there was nothing to really see. But many times when we would look outside, we would see what appeared to be like a spaceship, and it was circular, and there were different colored lights, red, green, yellow, blue, lavender, and they would go around in a circle, and this thing, whatever it was, it would lift up, and then it would come back down. It would lift up maybe 10 feet up into the air, and then it would hover for a very long time, and then it would go down, and the lights would keep circulating and going around in a circle. And after a while, you just took it for granted, like, oh, there's that thing that's out there. And one day we were really like serious. We got to investigate what this is all about. So one day we went to Gurudev and we told him what we were seeing, and he looked at us and he said, "Oh, I didn't think anyone else could see that." That gave us a clue. And he said, "But whatever you do, don't go out there. Don't go looking for anything, because if you go, you won't see anything at all." So being good devotees, we decided that what we were going to do is go out and investigate. And one night we went out probably around 2:00 in the morning, and we would sit on the veranda and we would see this phenomenon going out. and we would walk down the hill towards this thing. And the closer we would walk, it would disappear. And again, we would come up to the veranda and we would see it, and we'd go out with our flashlights and we would walk down the hill to see if we could find it. And we couldn't find it at all. In fact, we went out there during the day and there was absolutely nothing out there during the day. And a couple of days later, we bumped into Gurudev walking. We were all taking a walk together, and he just looked at us and he said, "I told you if you would go out there, you wouldn't see anything at all." But we would often see him walking like around 4 o'clock in the morning, all by himself. And that's exactly where he would go. He would go down there and he would come back up. And, it was 4 in the morning, so there was nobody around. Nobody would interfere with his walk in those days, at least. So who knows? Maybe the ashram was being watched by somebody from outer space.
Oh, and you used to have a lot of fun time with all your group mates there. Like we heard in John Osborne's interview that how you never used to get hot water, so you used to arrange different stuff for that. So how was that time for you? Was it easy to accommodate in ashram?
It was quite austere in the ashram in those days. There was nothing there at all. And, that was the time when Ashtavakra Gita was being recorded. And, there was nothing available, even in India at that time, to do a home video or to even acquire anything. And I remember we would go into the industrial part of Bangalore, into the Chickpet area, and we would buy these industrial lights so we could illuminate Gurudev during the recording. And we would buy these microphones and all these things that we had to acquire because there was nothing there at the ashram. And somebody from the United States brought a camera to the ashram, a video camera, so that we could record Gurudev when he was at satsang. And he knew he was going to do Ashtavakra, but that didn't mean anything to us because we didn't really know what that was all about. And the camera came from the United States and it didn't work. We plugged it in, we tried everything, and zero, nothing. It wouldn't work at all. And so we went to Gurudev's kutir and we told him, the camera arrived, we have the lights, we have the microphones, we're all set up to do everything, but the camera doesn't work. And Gurudev looked at us and he said, "Oh, this is very important. What I'm going to speak about will be for posterity. Thousands of people are going to watch this. The camera needs to work." And then he just sat, closed his eyes, and we all just meditated. He didn't say a word, didn't tell us to meditate. He closed his eyes, so we followed, and we were sitting in meditation. Must have been like a half hour would have passed by. And then he just quickly opened his eyes and said, "Go check the camera. I'm sure it's working now." And sure enough, the camera was working, and we were able to record the Ashtavakra. And during Ashtavakra, what was so fascinating is that, you talk about the group of friends that I had. I just remember being in my room with two roommates, and in the evening, Gurudev would do the satsang, and he would talk on Ashtavakra. And when we would be back in our rooms, we would share with each other and, review what Gurudev was talking about. And I remember lying in bed and just telling my other two friends, today's talk was completely for me. And Gurudev was really talking about all these things that are going on in my life. And then somebody in the next bed would say, no, this was all about me. He was talking about me because these things were going on in my life. And it seemed like he was connecting to every single person at that time who was at the ashram. And it was so personal for everybody. And what's so amazing is so many years later, people are watching Ashtavakra and they feel it's so personal. It's just for them what Gurudev is talking about. So really a very special time to be able to record that. I was the cameraman, so I was so honored that I got to be the cameraman during those episodes.
Wow. And so we recorded all the episodes there, or because of this camera thing, few got missed?
No, everything is recorded.
Everything is recorded. The older Ashtavakra that we see.
That's the original Ashtavakra that you see, and the beginning of that, where you see the crown and the Guru Padakas and the flowers and all that. That was made in my kitchen. I set that whole thing up, and I had a camera, and I made that, and the music and the background and all that we did.
Wow. So any such knowledge session, and I think that was the time when he also started knowledge facts, no? Or it had already started by then?
Well, knowledge facts came much later.
Much
he
later.
Started that in the United States, and he started that in Santa Barbara, California, I'm pretty sure.
And you were there for during the few knowledge facts?
Oh, I was there for many knowledge facts. I'm quoted in a few of them where, if you look at the originals and different people are talking and he says, this person says, or so there's a few Mikey says. I don't remember which ones they are, but you can look.
So how was that experience? How the whole knowledge fact used to happen?
That's really was so fascinating because Gurudev would look at everybody and say, what is it that you want me to talk about? And there would be 50 or 80 people in a room, and everybody would have an idea, and he would listen to everybody's idea, but he would have his own idea, and he would go on his own topic. And then, he would give the knowledge, but it was so interactive because everybody would contribute to what he was saying, or they would change a word or say, Gurudev, what about this? Have you considered this? And then he would say, oh, yes. And he would refine it. And it really was like a group process, and everybody felt so connected to it. And then it got edited, and then again, it got edited. And at the end of the process, whenever the knowledge sheet was just about ready to go out to everybody, it would be read to him out loud, and he would listen, and then he would go, this is very good. This is really good. Not as though there was some essence of ego there, but I think he was as fascinated with the phenomenon of how the knowledge flowed out of him as everybody else was. It wasn't like he was the person speaking the knowledge. It was always like, isn't this incredible how this knowledge comes out? So that was always something very special to watch, how he admired the entire process of unfolding within himself.
Wow. Any incidents that you remember during this time, during between the Ashtavakra and knowledge sheet, when you were traveling with him or being in ashram, some intimate discussion with him that you remember now?
Well, this is the only story that's coming to my mind right now, is that we used to have satsangs in people's homes when he would travel from place to place. So when he came to the United States in the early days, he would come for maybe 3 months, and or 3 weeks, I'm sorry. He would come for 3 weeks, and he would go to different cities around the United States. And when he came to California, he would pretty much always stay in the same house. And in the evening, after whatever public talk he would give, he would come back to that house. And then there would be a little satsang that would be going on. And I remember, we would sing some bhajans, not many, 3-4 bhajans, and he would talk a little bit and have some fun with everybody, probably take a water gun out and squirt everybody. And, we'd have some prasad. And one time during the satsang, I just remember sitting there and thinking that I want to experience samadhi. And I had many years back read Autobiography of a Yogi, which almost everybody has read on the spiritual path. And one of Paramahansa's dear devotees, who was from the United States, he had that experience once where he was going into meditation and he just wanted to dissolve and experience pure samadhi. And I was thinking about that at the moment, and I had the same thought that was coming to me. And I was just singing, my eyes were closed, and I usually like to play either the tambourine or the little bells or something. And I just remember having this feeling of let go of the tambourine, let go of the bells, just sit still. And the more I sat still, the deeper the meditation went. And it became so deep that I just felt like I was completely paralyzed. And the mind went so blank that I had no idea where I was in time or space or who I was. And this was the very first time I had that experience to such an intensity. And the satsang was over and people were gone from the room, and Gurudev was in his room. And I just remember slowly, it took forever to come out of that experience. And then I went into the room where Gurudev was staying, and he was just sitting on his bed, and which was on the floor. And I could barely talk. I was so out of it. And I think I was just laughing and laughing and laughing because I couldn't communicate. I couldn't say a word. And Gurudev looked at me and he said, I looked around the room and I wanted to give the experience to somebody, but nobody was ready for it. And you were the only one who was asking for it. So you got the full dose at that time. And, maybe now in a satsang, there are thousands of people and many people are asking for it. So that dose got divided. But in those days, it was so small that I must have got all the Shakti in one blast. And I mean, it was like such a beautiful, powerful experience. So be careful what you ask for.
So, Michael, you were also there when the Bhakti Sutras were recorded, Narad Bhakti Sutra?
Nadar's Bhakti Sutras, of course, that started in Los Angeles, California. And oddly enough, before I got involved with Art of Living, I was involved in a group called Making Love Work. And we rented their facility for a series of 3 talks with Gurudev. And that's where he started to talk about divine love. And then we went all over North America with the tour on this. And it was really fascinating.
So there is this story about diamond cutter conversation, no, with you and Gurudev. Some beautiful conversation happened there.
Yeah, so I didn't know if I shared that story the last time or not. So I can share it now. So we had a silence course in Los Angeles in the Pacific Palisades. And I had rented a camera, and I brought the camera and the lights and the microphone. And this was the very first time that we had recorded Gurudev on video. And during every time I would record, people would get upset with me because in those days, the groups were so intimate. If there were 80 people on a silence course, that was a pretty crowded silence course. And we would sit very close to him. There were no rules or anything. And all of a sudden, this big camera comes and lights and a microphone, and people had to move away from the camera because it was quite a consumer camera. So I had to shoot above people's heads and people had to move out of the side. And there was one teacher, her name was Janelle. She was so furious with me. she would just say, you're destroying the whole Art of Living organization, all the intimacy and the beauty of being so close to the master. We don't have that anymore because of you and your camera. I mean, she was a quite intense individual. And anyway, at the end of the silence course, we were going up to British Vancouver for the Guru Purnima celebration. And Gurudev was going to give some talks while he was up there. So I asked him, Gurudev, when I go up to Canada, do you want me to bring the camera with me? And he said,